welcome to another episode of Tesseract Talks, the place where we put the spotlight on tech trends, startups, and VCs. I'm your host, Marco, the founder and CEO of Tesseract Analytics, and it is my pleasure today to have Noelle Russell as our guest. She's a CEO and founder at AI Leadership Institute, a best-selling author, and had a successful career that included positions in AWS, Amazon Alexa, Microsoft, NPR, Accenture, Red Hat, IBM, and more. The list can keep on going, but Noelle, welcome. How are you?
So good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. In preparation for this episode, I went through your CV, and there are so many interesting companies and positions you held that my intro alone could have been like 5 minutes. But I think it's better it comes from you. So why don't we start by you taking us chronologically through your career from the early days and how it all started and then until today.
Absolutely. Of course, I try not to bore people with the crazy details, but it did start actually a bit exciting. I got into the world. I really started my career at a very interesting time in the world. I always say it was the first time the world was going to end Y2K. So at Y2K, I was in aviation, avionics engineering. That was my passion. I wanted to go into aviation, but Y2K kind of pivoted me towards enterprise technology. So I ended up learning small talk and Java and getting picked up by IBM. And I spent 12 years there learning, teaching, delivering service oriented architecture. If you remember back in the day, that was it was kind of like data and AI is today. Service oriented architecture, web services, all of those types of things was very popular. But I always like to be at the beginning of things, as many in your audience probably does as well. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but I wasn't in a place where wanted to go on my own because I have a son. I have 6 kids, but my firstborn has Down syndrome. And so I was really interested in kind of pushing kind of the envelope of accessibility and emerging tech in big companies. And so that's why my list of companies is pretty intentional. Actually, it's very intentional. I went and looked for companies that were like doing new things and pushing the envelope. I ended up at VMware when they were just trying to figure out virtualization and really it was the kind of infancy of cloud. And because of the work I did at VMware, I ended up at Amazon Web Services, helping with cloud infrastructure. This is like in 2013, 2014. And then I end up, I'm a principal cloud architect. I end up getting an email from Jeff Bezos when he wanted to start this brand new team, to build the Star Trek computer. It was a pet project. It wasn't like we weren't trying to change the world, though I immediately saw a world changing opportunity. So I went from being a cloud architect to kind of joining this huge whirlwind of a tornado experience that was Amazon Alexa in the very early days. I was like employee 10 on the skills team. I built over 100 skills for Alexa in the first year. I had about 10%. At one point, I had 10% of all the skills deployed, which was, it only lasted like 2 minutes, but it was a moment. I got a t-shirt. Like I was like, this happened, but I did it in a category that wasn't very popular. It was like in mindfulness and kindness and prayer. And everyone else was building like workout skills and fact skills. And so I was always pushing the edge, but that led me, of course, I was at Amazon 4 years. Microsoft came and recruited me to help them kind of make the same success we had at Alexa, turn that into success for applied AI. And so I ended up at Microsoft for another couple of years deploying a Microsoft democratized AI, which wasn't just voice. It was voice and computer vision and decisioning and all sorts of really cool models that I wasn't aware of. But I got very excited about like, oh my gosh, if I can teach my son just to talk, the whole world opens up through natural language. And then I can build all of these models that you don't have to learn how to code to use. Like you now could just use your voice and these models can interact with you. And so I got very, very excited about it. But one thing I learned, you'll notice like all those companies were product companies. And one thing I learned at Microsoft, I influenced about $1 billion in revenue selling AI to companies. But the danger in that is that they never used it. They didn't know what came in the box. They didn't know how to apply it. So the latter half of my career, before I decided to go all in on starting my own company, the latter half was really around consultancy and kind of like the work that you're very familiar with, right? Like, how do I help people actually apply the tech that they're buying? And that I think is actually an even more important problem to solve. And so that's what I do now. I teach people the importance of understanding the tech, But then more importantly, how do you apply that to business problems? How do you apply that to scaling, to cost optimization, to lead generation? Like there's so many opportunities now. And Jeff Bezos taught me something really important is that, this technology, whether it's AI or any emerging tech, it's a rising tide. And I've really worked for the yachts in this business, like these huge boats, but it really is a tide that all the boats can rise if everyone knows what they're, if they know what they're doing. And so that's kind of how I've landed at the AI Leadership Institute and put all my eggs in that basket from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Amazing journey so far. So, like with recent developments in technology, all of our news feeds are full of AI, but probably few people really know what does a chief AI officer do in their role. As we can imagine, more of these roles will be around us in near future. Can you tell us a bit more in like detail from first hand so we can better understand the role itself?
Absolutely. And I think it's good because sometimes as an engineer, there is not a lot of paths to the executive like room, right? To get in the boardroom or to get on the C-suite. And the chief AI officer role is actually on the heels of another role, the chief data officer role or the data and analytics role. But there is a distinction. And this is what I think we've uncovered over the last couple of years is that the journey of being like a data person, which is different than a CTO, right? Or a CIO. Like there is very different technical aptitude that's required to manage this work. Like if you're a CTO or a CIO, you're likely in the like DevOps space, right? And you're managing kind of IT operations. AI and data are very, very different. Oftentimes a CAIO, a chief AI officer, is usually a data person who's getting new responsibilities. They're like, oh, you know data, you must know AI too. And that's not always the case. And so that's why a lot of companies have decided to, in addition to a data executive who is going to manage like data sources and understanding accuracy, this will be the fuel upon which these AI models work. But someone needs to own the models, especially in a world where these models are now going to become agents and these agents are going to become employees. So this is why that C-suite role becomes important because it's not just going to be a bunch of humans. It actually is, you need a leader who understands not only the powerful, of course, impact human leadership that's needed, but also what happens when the things you need to lead are machines and you need to clearly articulate what role these machines will play. As a matter of fact, I have this like architecture that I go through all the time. It's called the human AI experience, right? Like it's the first step of any project is to design what is the human going to do and what is the AI going to do? And you need someone who's going to own that problem and be in love with that problem and make sure that the challenges and the solutions they come up with, it doesn't take away from human ingenuity. It empowers it, right? It makes all of your employees more successful, able to achieve more things instead of in this very tactical world we're in right now where we're like, ooh, I can save a few $100,000. I'm going to cut my employees. When if you think about it, like what happens if you take those employees and make them $1 million earners? Like every employee becomes a revenue generating center. And that means you're not going to want to get rid of anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like there are so many kind of reskilling things associated with this, and but yeah, the whole agentic AI wave that's coming our way, I think it whoever kind of like accepts it and understands it will be or have a huge advantage like overall in competitiveness, and I mean,
Absolutely.
very
Yeah. And I
very
think
interesting.
a lot of executives, I think they have grown up thinking that once you hit the C-suite, you kind of are distanced from fingers on keyboard. And I think the world of AI has now brought that right back into their purview. Like now you just need to have clarity of thought to build a good system, right? You've heard the term vibe coding, right? Like we now just need to know what we want and be clear enough in describing what we want, and a machine will build it for us. As a matter of fact, Anthropic, Amazon, Microsoft, they're all now no longer hiring kind of rudimentary engineers. They're no longer having humans do code reviews, right? Like there is this huge opportunity for an executive to learn how to actually build an AI system so that they can more accurately figure out where those systems belong in their company. We are the best at it. Executives, we've been there. We've been around for 20 years. We know where the skeletons are. We know where the potholes are. And now we're actually the best people to build the systems in the right place in the company, but not if we don't know what we're doing. So it's not a time to be afraid. It's actually a time to like jump in both feet. It might feel a little scary, but it's necessary right now to find success strategically.
Definitely. And I mean, you just released a new book called Scaling Responsible AI. Here we go. Here we go. I still have to order mine, but I'm sure.
I'll definitely send you a copy for sure. Don't own it. I will send you it. I will sign it and all yours.
Wait, I mean, tell us what made you write the book, and then like how you structured it, and then what would be the, let's say, three key takeaways without too many spoilers.
That's right. I mean, the best news I've gotten recently is that lots of people know me and I talk a lot. I'm on stages all over the world. I do workshops for companies. Like I'm constantly sharing kind of my perspective on how to scale these technologies because I scaled, models at Amazon and Microsoft. So I've seen it go very well, but I've also seen the challenges that we went through. And I've been talking about this for about 10 years. So I've been going on stage. You can go back to YouTube and see videos of me on stage in 2013 talking about like the future that we are now experiencing. The challenge though, so I started talking about it. I've been talking about it a long time. Here's the good news. And I think it's probably the best way to write a book is that my publisher, Wiley, they came to me and they were like, hey, you've got a pretty good story that you're telling on stage. People love the story. They take action from this. So why don't we just put that in a book? So I didn't actually ever really, I always wrote down like as a kid, I'm like, I want to be a best-selling author one day, but writing is hard. Like it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's not hard for everybody, but it's definitely hard for someone like me because I just want to do the work, right? I just want to like build stuff. I don't want to sit and talk, like write about the thing. I want to do the thing. And so I sat with Wiley. It took almost 2 years to get it out the door, which is interesting timing wise, right? So I started writing this kind of in the moment when we were all like, when everyone started waking up to the idea of AI. And I had already been talking about it for 8 years. And I'm like, finally, people want to know. So I wrote the book and it's called Scaling Responsible AI because at Microsoft, I learned this really interesting thing. I was responsible for helping with a team of us. We were responsible for launching 17 or 18 research models, like taking research and putting it into production. That was our job. And what I realized is that there was a really good analogy for how I felt in that moment. I basically felt like we were surrounded by little baby tigers. And that's why you'll see like I have little baby tigers everywhere. These little baby tigers, like, and if you think about a baby tiger, right? Like you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. I love it. Oh, it's adorable. Like when you're with a new AI model and you ask it simple things, it's kind of cute. It does good things. You're like kind of impressed. But no one's asking at this stage when it's nice and little. No one's asking like, wow, look at your paws. How big are you going to be? Or razor sharp teeth. What are you going to eat? How much are you going to eat? Where are you going to live? Like no one's asking these really hard questions that if you ask it when it's little, it's easy to solve for. Going back to this is what a chief AI officer has to do. Like their job is to say, okay, we are surrounding ourselves with these little baby models. How are they going to grow up? How are we going to ensure that they're safe and secure and accurate? How do we make sure that they don't accidentally hurt the very people we're trying to help? And that role actually then extends to everyone's role. If you're putting your fingers on a keyboard and talking to an AI system, you want to make sure that responsible development, the concept of doing something safely, that it's woven into the DNA of how you build projects. So that is what this book is about. It's about day one being, it's actually called, there's a tiger on it, right? So it's actually called From Enthusiasm to Execution. So it's like day one enthusiasm, which you have to have for a board or a C-suite to go, okay, you can have your baby tiger. Go for it. Have some fun. You need to harness the enthusiasm. But immediately following that, you have to then think about, okay, how do I make sure this model doesn't lie? How do I make sure this model doesn't hurt anyone? And how do I make sure that this model is safe and secure and doesn't create more problems than the problems it's trying to solve? And that is literally what it's all about. I'd say the most important thing to take away from this book is that at the end of every chapter, my favorite books are in this bookshelf. And in some of my favorite books, at the end of those chapters, they have questions that force you to think about what would you really do in this situation? And that is what I did in this book is I thought about the real questions that came up in all of the projects that I've deployed. And I put them in the book so that you could kind of get, I always say success leaves clues, but so does failure. And so I put some questions that would help you think through kind of what does the success look like, but also what are questions you could ask now to avoid failure in the future. And that I think makes it a little bit different. It's very pragmatic and I've gotten lots of great reviews. So hopefully, yes, anyone listening will go take a look and I would love to hear your feedback, but it's a pretty fun book to read.
I love this analogy that we're basically zookeepers surrounded
Yeah.
by the tech that are all different animals. It's very easy to visualize and like, oh yeah, I need to keep an eye on these
Yes.
tigers.
Yes, exactly. And the interesting thing is they grow up, but they never grow out of that type of oversight, right? Like you will always have to look at them because at any time, and we've seen this actually with tigers, at any time, if you're not keeping an eye on them, if you're not monitoring their accuracy, their security, their bias, they can go off track. It's called model drift, right? The ground truth can shift on you if you're not careful. And the cool thing is that it's not actually hard to keep them in line, to keep them doing the right things, but it does require you to commit to doing that work forever. And most companies don't realize that that's what's necessary.
And I think it's great. Another great thing you use a tiger because even if you're not interested in tigers, you should be aware of them and kind of like understand what they're doing because otherwise you'll be impacted or eaten by them. So like
Exactly. Whether you like them or not, it's a good idea to know kind of how they work and what to avoid.
I recently had a very interesting conversation with another founder in kind of agentic AI solution, and he told me with everything that's coming, you either need to be on top of it and close to it, or run as far away as like there is no middle ground. Like you have to be close or run
Yeah,
far.
it's literally retire, right? Like go do something else, become a massage therapist or a yoga
Yeah,
instructor, right? Like it's not like you could be in tech and run away because every tool will have this, every tool has tigers embedded in them now. Like it's a bullet point on every brochure. So yeah, unless you decide to put your head in the sand and go off the grid and live in the middle of, nowhere, I think you're going to have to learn this. The good news is though, it's fun and cute and cuddly and it is very interesting, but there is a right way to do it. And that is what I hope to help people understand.
I love your attitude and optimism about it because it's like you're fearless.
Yes. I mean, of course, I'm concerned about things, but I do think, I read a book, many of the books say this, that like, it's one thing to be afraid, but I am like afraid, like while walking, like while jumping, like it's, I guess the definition of bravery or of courage. Like you can be afraid of this, but the only way it gets better is if you actually participate in it. Like it doesn't get better if you're afraid and walk away. As a matter of fact, it's very dangerous to not know this technology. I'm a little worried about the whole narrative of being afraid of this tech, because if you're afraid and you choose not to use it and a bunch of other people choose to use it, that gap becomes bigger as a startup, as a founder, as an entrepreneur. Like you have the chance to compete at an equal level as everyone else with this technology. Everyone can use these models to get better. But if they tell you should be afraid and you believe them, you'll stop and they'll keep going. And I'm like, no, that's not cool. We're not stopping. We're going. So I try to, yes, I'm optimistic, but I'm rationally optimistic. And I do know what it takes to be safe and secure at any level of organization. And I think that is the key, is to be willing to partner with somebody who can help you navigate this journey in a really safe, responsible, and profitable way.
I think that was a perfect way to end our discussion for today. And I really do hope we will have another chance to talk on another episode. Maybe if you come in the future here to London, we can meet up. I'll take you to zoo. They have tigers. So
yeah, let's go. That's a great idea.
Thank you, Noelle, for sharing your story. And that's it. Wishing you all the best and our audience until next episode.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Bye.